And I told the mother and I said, is it okay to repeat a year? But mother was absolutely close to the idea. She said, एक साल और physics, maths, economics कर ले, एक साल और कर ले, फिर तू जो बोलेगी, you can do it in undergraduate.
When I read about this incident, and I read it on your LinkedIn, and I love following you on LinkedIn, and everybody who's watching, listening, this has to follow Samir on LinkedIn, because I think the pieces that he shares, the insights that he shares, are absolutely priceless. And you shared about, about the girl who committed suicide, a student who actually committed suicide while she was prepping for her NEET exam in Kota, and it actually made me stop. And it's, as parents, we always feel ye hamare sath, as humans actually, ye hamare sath nahi
हमारे
ho.
साथ नहीं हो सकता.
Until it actually happens to us, we don't even want to look at that news, right? But I don't know whether it is you being in the fraternity, me being in the fraternity, that it just hits us every day, and we realize that we need to talk about this, right? We need to
That's
bring
right.
about awareness about this. And that's exactly what our conversation is going to be about. And the other part, which you also mentioned, was that somebody said, while you were teaching in schools in UK, that you have a way with kids, right? They listen to you. I hope the parents also listen to you after this episode. But I also remember our first meeting where you said about this camp that you were taken with the teens, and I was like, wow, he actually went camping with, like, how many teenagers did you take with you?
That batch had Bishop Cotton Boys School, Bangalore, 149 boys.
149 boys, dude. We have to give it, like, I think we need a standing ovation for 149 boys on a camp. I cannot even imagine what conspired on that one.
Yeah.
But Samir, from someone who's seen so much through life, taken on a lot of burden very early on, kind of not navigated the formal way of education through being where you are, how would you break this down into those two or three qualities that helped you thrive through your down period, and also like made you who you are today with this experience that you've kept adding on to yourself?
So I think one of the first quality was that I mean, I mean, that's a great question to ask, but I'm just got to think about what it is. I think one of the qualities which I think one of the factor which contributed to who I am today is my mother. It sounds very cliched, and I think I'm not mama's boy typically, but I think she never valued my academics over who I was becoming as a person. She never bothered about asking me why your marks were less. I remembered once there was an incident in the family wherein my sister's friend became a victim of eve teasing by my cousin, and she sat me down and she said, "This is sexual harassment, dude. I mean, I'd never want to hear that my son ever did that." So our conversations were not about what were your marks in science, what were your marks in this thing, and she made her life as an open book for both of us. I mean, at least me and my sister. My younger brother was much younger. She would talk about her struggles. She would talk about her own journey, and I think that always made me understand that while academic will play a role in my journey ahead, but what is more important is the person I become through that journey. You know, and I think if you look at role modeling, I mean, I would say she's a role model of strength for me. She's gone through so much, so much, so much, but she's never given up. She's on herself and on any one of us around. So I think so. That's one aspect. Having somebody around and say, "Hey, it's okay. It's okay to fail. But what did you learn? Come back and have chat conversation about it." You know, she would always have that conversation. You didn't do is fine, but what did you learn out of this process? What are your learnings? What is going to be the way forward? I think that's that aspect of somebody safe person having a safe space, which does not judge you for failing or passing or excelling or non-excelling, is important. So it ideally should be one of the parent, but sometimes we find in the teachers too. You know, so that's one aspect.
I love that you say that, your mother paid very little emphasis, and she paid more emphasis on what you learned. Samir, where are we as parents and educators going wrong in this tug of war of how much to push, that you're not pushing them over, that they fall? So what's a, like, how much is a nudge, how much is a push, and what's like a really hard push that will topple them over? Because somewhere we're not getting that balance right? That's why we're seeing them fall like a pack of cards.
So I think, again, Mansi, this is no definitive formula. What worked in my
Yeah.
context may not work in another context. But I think, first of all, you have to ask yourself a question. Are you honest to yourself? Do you know
As
who
a
you
parent,
are as a parent? As a
as a
parent,
parent.
are you sure of who you are? And sometimes you may not be okay with who you are, and that's all right. And it doesn't mean going out and open and talk to your parents, children, who you are. They're too vulnerable and too young to be able to
Yeah.
carry your burden, you know.
Yeah.
But I think be comfortable in your own skin and understand who you are, where you failed, where you succeeded, where you did well as a parent, where you did not, and go back and have conversation with children. But the best part is to, again, going back to the same point, saying what my mother did. She never laid emphasis on goals and objectives. She didn't say she wants to see me in medicine, she wants to see me in NDA, she wants to do. She says, be better than what you are today. Be better tomorrow what you are today. That was a simple mantra. And second thing, she always had conversations about values, being what it means to be hardworking, what it means to be resilient, what it means to be, forgiving. uh, she talked about more human values. Then
Yeah.
she talked about academics. It may not be an ideal case scenario, and another parent would say I would have achieved probably higher potential if my mother was slightly pushy. But I think I
Yeah.
turned out fine. So I think as a parent, to give your child a safe space and do not pass on your burden of your expectations onto that child, and say, hey, it's okay if you fail, come and tell. We will support you. I think somewhere, we've taken away that from children. I see sometimes when parents come to me. I'm recently had a call from LinkedIn. Somebody connected, this mother connected to me. She heard one of my conversations and she said, I'm desperate. I want to talk to you. I want to meet you. I said, let's talk on the phone. I mean, her daughter is in grade 12. She's in a local school in Gurgaon. And I said, I'm happy to meet your daughter online, in person with you. And I said, what are her interests? I spoke to the daughter. She likes quilling. She likes stitching. She likes gardening. She likes her hands to be sort of active in whatever she does creatively. But she's studying physics, chemistry, economics, and maths. And I told mother, and I said, and she was really worried because I think the child she didn't confess, but the child did mention that she's tried to harm herself on a couple of occasions. There's a time when she's really dark and she doesn't understand. And she says, and I know why my mother tells me she's doing it for my best, but I don't know if this is who I am. So I think, and I told the mother, and I said, is it okay to repeat a year? But mother was absolutely close to the idea. She said, एक साल और physics, maths, economics कर ले, एक साल और कर ले, फिर तू जो बोलेगी, you can do it in undergraduate. But जैसे ही वो undergraduate में पहुंचेगी, 3 साल और economics कर ले, उसके बाद बेटा नौकरी मिल जाएगी, फैशन से नौकरी नहीं मिलेगी, वो करेगी, बेटा MBA ही तो रह गई है, 2 साल और MBA कर ले. So I think pushing children against the wall and not allowing them to, to be who they are. We don't
Yeah.
allow children to be who they are. We've created these boxes, and we want children in those boxes. I mean, I was having a conversation with my colleague today morning. We just catch up every day. These days, a little downtime. And I'm doing a course from Principals Training Center. And one of the questions, I asked was define learning. And in that conversation, we started that, as a mission statement, we say we enable children asking us questions, and making impacting a change. But how uncomfortable we are when children ask us questions, right? Right? About our
Yeah.
lives. Are we comfortable answering all questions to our children? Even
Totally.
as teachers, sometimes we feel intimidated saying, how can you walk up to me and sort of ask me this question? And I
Yeah.
always say, it's not how come you ask this question. I say, how do you ask this question? Because there is always a boundary between a teacher and a student, parent and a child. And I always say, yeah, don't be a friend parent. There are enough friends in life for this. The child needs a parent, the child needs a teacher. So don't tag yourself as a friend parent or a friend teacher. So I think allowing children to question the systems, question the processes, and allowing them to be who they are. We really, really struggle with that. We really
Yeah.
want that one engineer, one doctor. And I this is in Amritsar. I had a student who topped nationally She topped nationally in grade 10th with almost 100% score. But and she went to Kota. She did her Kota preparation from there. She qualified the JEE exam, but her board result was 43. That girl went into depression for 2 years. You know, her parents could not just accept it. And I kept telling them, and it's okay. She still cracked one of the toughest examination. What if she's not qualified for that? She can do that as well. But again,
Right.
next year she has to write that process. She has to write board exam also. It's the whole process. It's not that it's like a US college offer which you can defer by a year. An admission in
Yeah.
IT can be deferred by. If you don't meet the criteria, you don't meet the criteria. And I think 3 years of counseling, the child lost 2 years of her life, which I still felt was okay. She went to do psychology honors later. And she's a
Wow.
practitioner. She's practicing counselor now.
Wow.
And I cannot imagine how good she would be as a counselor, because she went through that whole journey herself.
For parenting tips, celebrity interviews, recipes, conversations with experts, DIYs, and lots more. Subscribe to Kids Talk Press now.